Welcome to the Blueprint Briefing. I am your host, Marcus Xavier. In every era of history, there are architects, individuals who don't just observe the structures of power, but seek to dismantle and redesign them from the ground up. Today, we are conducting a deep dive, journalistic investigation into a man who has been called the most influential political figure of the last 20 years, Steve Bannon. This isn't just a biography. It is an educational analysis of contemporary history. We are exploring the linguistic roots, the cultural history, and the strategic blueprint behind the man who shaped the modern political landscape. How do the events of 1953 Richmond or a 1979 military failure in Iran impact your daily life today? Let's analyze the facts. To understand the argument Bannon makes, we must look at his origin. Born in 1953 in Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Old South, Bannon was raised in a large Irish Catholic family. Culturally, this environment was steeped in a specific historical narrative. At his right-wing military Catholic high school, the curriculum taught that Catholicism fought a holy war against Islam 400 years ago to save the world. This is a critical historical root. It established a worldview of civilizational conflict that Bannon would carry into adulthood. His linguistic style, often aggressive and binary, was forged here. Bannon's early life demonstrates how educational environments can amplify confirmation bias. By framing history as a perpetual war, he learned to view politics not as a debate, but as an insurgency. This is the blueprint for the aggressive language we see in modern campaigns, a strategy he first tested while running for student government at Virginia Tech, where opponents described him as a menace who focused on negativity to win. History often pivots on single moments of failure. For Bannon, that moment was Operation Eagle Claw in 1979. While serving in the Navy, Bannon watched as the Carter administration's attempt to rescue American hostages in Iran ended in a disastrous desert crash that killed 8 soldiers. Bannon's political conviction was not born from a love of policy, but from a disgust for what he perceived as weakness. He famously stated that his views were formed by seeing how a weak man like Jimmy Carter could lead the nation into a debacle. This event shaped a core tenet of modern nationalist politics, the rejection of establishment incompetence in favor of strongman optics. Bannon's interpretation of this event ignored the complex geopolitical history of the 1953 Iranian coup, focusing instead on the optics of American humiliation. This illustrates how personal interpretation of historical events can lead to volatile political ideologies. Bannon's path to power was paved with an unlikely series of financial successes. After a stint at the Pentagon and Goldman Sachs, where he learned the white knight strategy of protecting companies from hostile takeovers, he moved into Hollywood. In a move that mirrors the Wolf of Wall Street era, Bannon took a risk by waiving his fees in a studio deal in exchange for royalties on a then-average show called Seinfeld. This gave him real wealth, the kind of financial independence that allows a person to stop serving institutions and start building their own. But the most fascinating chapter of his pre-political life happened in Hong Kong in 2005. Bannon became involved with Internet Gaming Entertainment, IG, a company that used low-wage Chinese workers to mine virtual gold in the game World of Warcraft. When gamers organized a militia to crash his company through mass reporting and digital protests, Bannon didn't get angry, he got inspired. He saw ruthless white males with monster power who could mobilize instantly via message boards like Reddit. And Bannon realized that if he could channel that cult-like energy and obsession from the gaming world into a political ideology, he would have an unstoppable army. This is the factual origin of what many call the outright pipeline. Following the death of Andrew Breitbart in 2012, Bannon took over Breitbart News, transforming it into the platform of the outright. He understood a fundamental truth of contemporary history. Culture is upstream from politics. By using cultural battering rams like Milo Yiannopoulos and leveraging issues like Gamergate, Bannon primed a generation of young men to feel politically homeless and dispossessed. He used linguistic cues to frame the media and woke culture as the enemy, creating an allegiance of followers who cared about politics through the lens of conflict. This was the blueprint he brought to Donald Trump in 2011. Bannon saw in Trump a candidate who shared his disdain for political correctness. Together, they treated the 2016 election not as a traditional campaign, but as an insurgency. Using data scraping techniques via Cambridge Analytica, they targeted 50 million Facebook users with psychological warfare. The argument here is clear. Bannon leveraged technological literacy and cultural resentment to achieve what the establishment thought was impossible. Even after being fired from the White House following the release of the book, The Devil's Bargain, Bannon did not disappear. He went global, teaching nationalist movements to flood the media with conflict and treat elections like wars. He lived on the yacht of Chinese billionaire Miles Guo, where he was eventually arrested in 2020 on charges of fraud related to the Build the Wall campaign. Though pardoned by Trump for federal crimes, he continued his work through his podcast, The War Room. Journalistic integrity requires us to look at the darker associations. Sources indicate that in 2018, Bannon met with Jeffrey Epstein in an attempt to rebuild his image through a documentary. Bannon claimed he wanted to humanize the figure, a move that connected him to some of the most powerful and controversial people in the world. As we conclude this briefing, we must analyze the Bannon argument. Steve Bannon famously stated, "Darkness is good." Dick Cheney, Darth Vader, Satan, that's power. Whether one views him as a sewer creature or a political genius, the factual impact is undeniable. He shaped modern politics by identifying that conviction and certainty are more powerful than traditional policy. He proved that the internet, once a place for gaming and virtual gold, could be mined to create real-world political earthquakes. How does this impact your daily life? It impacts the media you consume, the way political candidates speak to you, and the very structure of our democratic discourse. Bannon's blueprint suggests that the future of politics is not found in the center, but in the insurgencies of the fringes. I am Marcus Xavier. This has been the Blueprint Briefing.